One thing that keeps me puzzled, despite having studied finance and economics at the world's best universities, the following question remains unanswered. Why is it that 5,000 units of our currency is worth 1 unit of your currency, where we are the ones with the actual gold reserves? It's quite evident that the aid is in fact not coming from the West to Africa, but from Africa to the Western world. The Western world depends on Africa in every possible way, since alternative resources are scarce out here. So, how does the West ensure that the free aid keeps coming? By
Anana to see whether she can join the group. Sorry, whether she can join our spaces here. I'm still waiting for one more speaker. She hasn't yet joined. Yeah, so a very good evening once again. Let me take this time to welcome all of you to our pre-ARC event. That is a pre-African Leaders Conference event. Yeah, it is exactly 4 days to African Leaders Conference, and today we are going to be discussing the topic, changing reading narratives in African communities. And with me today, I have a very prominent figures, very uh, with me today I have very prominent figures who have contributed a lot in changing reading narratives in African communities, and they are going to share with us the secret, what they have done, and really what we can do to change the reading narratives in African communities. Yes, I have with me Garang Lester, there is Priska Akelawanga, and then there is Joseph Tahinduka. There is one more lady, but she hasn't yet joined in. Priska. Is that Priska? Hey, Priska, can you hear me? I need one of the speakers to kindly go and inform, to go and kindly check on Nane at she has issues in joining. Let me see what I Sorry, guys. I'm really so sorry. I had some network issues. Yeah. So today we're going to be discussing a very crucial topic, that is changing narratives in African communities. I hope Anane has finally joined in. Yes, so it's going to be a question answer session whereby I'm going to ask questions to the speakers. Then I'll maybe give opportunities for the audience to ask their questions. Yes. Let me start right away with Mr. Joseph Tahinduka. Mr. Joseph Tahinduka. Hello, Mr. Joseph Tahinduka. I don't know whether I'm audible. Sorry.
Have joined. I don't know why. But the rest of the people, you muted them. Just unmute them.
I think I've unmuted, yeah? But I can't see Nane. I can't see her. I don't know if she has joined or not. Hello, Priska.
Yes, she's saying she can. She's saying that she has joined, but we can't see her.
I really can't see anyone here. Yeah, so maybe let us start right away. I'm going to start right away with Mr. Joseph Tahinduka, the Managing Director of the Debate Institute Africa, as well as the host of the African Leaders Conference. I hope you can hear me. Yes, so Mr. Joseph Tahinduka, why the concept of the African Leaders Conference? Because we have had in the previous years whereby there have been very many conferences led, others maybe the African Writers Conference, African Writers Conference, African Poets Conferences. Why do we have the African Leaders Conference in particular? So I don't know really whether Joseph is on or he has just joined and left his somewhere.
Joseph doesn't appear to be a speaker. He's just a listener. The Debate Institute of Africa is a listener.
Yeah, I requested him to be a speaker, but then he has not approved it. I don't know.
Yeah. So the narrative around reading in Africa is a disheartening one. As a person who reads, as also a young African aspiring to make a difference in the continent or on the continent, the narrative is bad. But yes, you see, I would tag the problem to the very foundation of literacy in Africa. And by the foundation of literacy, I mean where we begin to learn how to read and write. You see, the first things we learn in kindergarten is reading skills and writing, how to begin with the English alphabet, and then to connect the alphabet to form words, and then how to start reading sentences like, what is your name? My name is Garang, and stuff like that. In most cases, the entire system that is meant is I don't want to trash the effort of our teachers, but to some extent I believe that whether we become readers or whether we don't become any of them, it begins right from that foundation. Then as we grow from that foundation, then we get used to reading. We now know how to read and write. We become literate as the English define them. And then we go into the primary system, and then we are killed. Because from the primary system to where we are, even at the university, learning stops. What it starts is a process of indoctrination, where principles and ideologies long developed in time that we don't know are then indoctrinated into us. And then that is what goes on until we go to the universities and stuff like that. You see, the very notion of learning, whether it is learning to read or learning to speak, is premised on the idea that the learner must first acknowledge that they need to learn something. Africans don't think it is important to learn how to read. And that's why there is a famous saying that I will not repeat for the fact that people know it, that Africans don't read. So that forms the beginning. So the reason why one reads, for example, I'll always use myself as a reader. The reason why I read is because I feel that if I know how to read, the best way to learn is to read it by myself, not to hear it from anyone. But even if I hear it from someone, it's still for me to read it by myself, from the books that I read, academic books, self-development books, whatever that I read. The reason why I read it is because I believe the only way I can know that I'm reading is by me, myself reading it, not someone else maybe reading it and then telling me as a story. And so the problem then comes in. There are so many constraints that come in. One, we have a group of Africans. Many of us are really lazy. This is something that I don't want to even apologize for saying, but for the need of being politically correct, which I always don't want to be, I cannot even apologize, because if I wanted to be politically correct, I would say, I'm sorry to say it, but I wouldn't say that. We are lazy, that in most cases, even a small volume as small as 100 pages is very hard for us to read. So that alone forms the very beginning of poor reading culture. Secondly, why are we lazy to read? It's because of the way we approach reading. If you picked a novel, if you picked a book, and then you want to read it, there will be two reasons. One, you want to read it because you want to learn what's in that book. In most cases, many of us as young Africans, or generally Africans, don't have reasons to read books because we think we know what is enough. Secondly, if the book is not going to be examined in school, we will not read it. That means the reason why people read is because there is that examination notion tagged to reading. And that's why teachers will stand on assembly or whatever it is and then tell you, go and read, go to the library, read this, read that. Because the reason why they're telling you to read is it's not like reading is important, but somehow they want you to read so that you can perform. So if we can draw a line between reading to perform and reading to know, we will be able to read. Because reading to perform is just, you may not even need to read it. And that's why most of our school libraries are filled with summaries of concepts and not the idea concept that arrive, the procedure that arrives to those concepts. So that to me is what the beginning of poor reading culture is. And I always love tagging my problems to solutions. If poor reading culture is because of the way we are taught, it's also because of we are lazy, and those of the reasons why we read. Then one, there must be a reform system. There must be a reform to how we are taught. Education has to be reformed. That is something we don't want to sing again. It's something that we want to be done as soon as possible. And then secondly, we need to cut the process of reading down. For example, you see, as a student of law, I'm a very busy person, but my reading system remains the same. That in every 2 months, I don't want to fall short of reading at least 2 books. It doesn't matter what the volume is, it doesn't matter what the source is, but at least I have to read 2 books so that when the year ends, I have read 24 books. That is just how it is. So however busy you are, you need to, you can fragment your book. If the volume is 300 pages and maybe let's say 15 chapters, what is wrong with reading a chapter in 2 days? Reading a chapter in 2 days, by the week you're done with the book and then you go back to your academic work or something like that. So in other words, so that we don't be overwhelmed by the volume of books and then laziness then comes in, procrastination and so many other things. If we divide our things and say, okay, I'm going to read this, I'm going to read this and stuff like that. So that becomes the solution to all that thing. And again, finally, we need to change the reason why we read. If the reason why we read is to perform, what if you can perform without reading? Will you read? And the importance of reading cannot be stressed enough. So for me, I think that forms the premise for the poor reading culture in Africa. We are lazy, then we are also poorly taught, and the reasons why we read are not properly clarified. Yes, thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Garang. I really do agree with you. Yeah, basing on the issue of laziness, and even most times when you send a poster, a very short poster, by the way, you find that there are some people who will even miss what very critical issues just because I don't know whether it's laziness or I don't know how to call it. You find the date of some event is in the poster, then everything is in the poster, but because of I don't know what, they cannot even really pick it. Yeah. So let's say someone wants to take up the habit of reading and is really new in the reading, industry, is really new in the reading field. What kind of advice would you give to that person to really pull up, because you can't really take all the strides at once? How would you really advise a person to really cope up really so fast? Thank you.
Oh well, thank you very much. You see, when you see, there is a famous saying that where there is a will, there is a way. So if you're willing to do something, you will find 1 out of 1,000,000 reasons to do it. So the first thing I would tell someone that wants to develop the habit of reading is you need to first be willing to read. Sometimes the willingness is created by the premise. And by premise in this context, I mean, why would you want to read? What would you want to know? There are things that motivate you to read because, one, it is the class that you are in, the cycle. If you are in the middle of mediocres who don't read, you will not have reasons to read. This I say without any fear of contradiction because I know people like Tahinduka Joseph. These are my cycle. I know people like Clifton. I know people like Priska here. If I don't read, I am going to sit with Tahinduka Joseph or I'll sit with Clifton and they're going to challenge me by how much they know. That alone is enough reason why one can read. So the first thing is check your cycle. If your cycle is made up of people that are mediocres, that don't read, that stop at the concept that they just get to know maybe because they have heard it from someone, and then that is what you keep singing, that the only principle that you know is whatever you keep citing, or maybe the book you last read 5 years ago is the book you always want to cite to back up whatever argument you're making. You will always be challenged that, hey, your information is outdated. You need to read something new, that come up with something new so that you can fit in the cycle. So first thing is change your cycle. If your cycle is mediocre, you will not improve in reading. Secondly, I find pleasure in being consulted. This is something that I always tell people who are close to me. I feel proud if I am the one consulted. If people come to me and ask me, Lester, what is this? And then I am able to help you. I'll go home and I'll sleep like a baby because I have done something nice. I have been able to help you by just what I know. So that alone moves me to read. Like I want to read so that I know, so that tomorrow maybe Priska comes to me or Tainduka or for people around, I will always refer to these people because I know them personally. I don't want that to be offensive. So I will always be like, what if Clifton comes to me today and I don't know what he's going to say? I'll feel challenged if you come to me and I can't help you just because I don't know. So in most cases, it is important to find good reasons for why you should know. Now, if you have those two reasons, if you have a cycle that challenges you to know something more, then you will always strive to know. Then secondly, if you find it important to always be able to assist people in information, in something that you know, then you will find reasons to keep knowing. Then if you've set that up, then you strive to read. And then the first premise is always, the first step is always get rid of procrastination. Secondly, get rid of laziness. You know, when it comes to reading, procrastination and laziness are almost synonymous, because procrastination is when you buy a book and then they say, oh, since I bought this book today, I think I'll start tomorrow. Then tomorrow comes and you have another reason why you will start it the day after tomorrow. And then like that, you're procrastinating and then you're simply lazy. But you know, when you do that, you need to first get the book, read the book. You know, in most cases, I'll first read the title and the author, and I do a background check on the author, and then I go behind the summary of maybe about the book and about the author, and then I get that. If that is found, because of course the first thing is, if I don't like the book, I will not buy it or download it. So that means I am going to read the book by the time I get it from the bookstore or from the website where I will download the book. Then you divide your book into fragments. Look at how many chapters the book has, look at the volume, and see how much you can read in a day or in 2 days, and say, okay, in a day I'll read a chapter. And then you wake up. I mean, some people really wake up so early. I know Tainduka wakes up really early. If you wake up at 5 a.m. and maybe you do a little jogging and sit down and read your page, and you go for something else, then in the evening you read a page. By the time the day ends, you've done it. You finish your chapter. Then tomorrow you do the same thing. And by the way, this is personal, but I feel it is really nice. Reading in the morning is really important. It doesn't matter what you read, but if you start a day with reading, your day is going to be better. So read something every day in the book that you are reading. Slowly like that, you will finish the book without being overwhelmed that the volume is much, without being overwhelmed that you will have to start it tomorrow or the day after tomorrow or something like that. When you do that, you have finished your first book of the month, then you are ready to start your second book without compromising your daily programs. If you're a student, your academic program remains the same. If you work, your work program remains the same, because you read before even going to work, then you read after work, and then as you're taking your tea, as you're taking your coffee, whatever you're taking in the evening, in the morning, you're reading something. That alone forms the basic of reading habit. They say that a drop is what makes an ocean or a river or whatever flow of water. So you cannot begin a book and say you're going to finish a book in one day, or you're going to read. You get tired and you lose focus. You will not understand what you're reading. You get worn out. And at the end of the day, you may never come back to read again because you're worn out the first time you started.
Wow.
Be able to follow up with reading. So yeah, thank you. So that is what I would advise them. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much, and I hope people are really taking notes. Yeah, Priska, really in the 21st century, with the development of the technology, of course, apparently our reading culture is already very poor. And then again, you realize that with the technology, our new library is social media. Don't you think that there will come a time that really our reading culture is going to be completely swallowed up? And really, what can we do with the technology to really improve the reading culture in Africa? Thank you.
Hello, I hope you get me.
Yeah, sure.
Agatha, can you please mute when I'm speaking? Okay, thank you very much. Very good evening to everyone. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. First of all, to add on what Garang said, where there is a will, there is you have the courage to carry on. I think first of all, we have seen that even the times when social media wasn't really like were not so much, had not much into social media, the reading culture in Africa was still behind. There was still this kind of a narrative that, well, Africans, when something is put into like written, they will not consume it. Now, I think the idea that social media might consume so much of our energy, or we might just find that we are so much consumed in social media than reading. I think that is also something that is going to, only when you don't have the will to consume the right kind of information that you would consume from written books, or even with social media. I think we just have to find a way of incorporating things. I'm not saying that we shouldn't use social media. Right now we are using Twitter, to put out information, or to encourage readers, or to like do all these things. People are using social media for businesses. People are using social media for like spreading maybe their gossip. People are using social media to do a lot of things. I don't think this is something that we should ruin and run away from. I just think we are, as young people or as Africans, we need to find a way of incorporating things. First of all, even on social media itself, I know a couple of websites, I know a couple of writers who put out information on a daily basis. I know a couple of websites where you will get any kind of a book that you would love to read anytime, anywhere you want to get it. I mean, any moment you want to get it. So it's just that if you don't have the will to do something, you will always find excuses. Just like Garang said, that when you have, I think procrastination is like a spirit that people have. You keep postponing to do something. You just keep saying, oh, I'll do it the other time. I'll do it the other time. Now that's when you don't have the will. But when you have the will, social media is not going to be a reason for you not to read 20 pages of a book on a day, in the morning and in the evening. That will not be the reason, because we have, let's say during the day, those are 12 hours. 12 hours of a day, you're not going to consume social media for 12 hours in a day. That means you can get even less than 20 minutes to read something that is actually going to change your life. So to me, I think social media, it's when you don't have the will. And I think to add on what Garang said, for us, like developing a culture in you, it doesn't mean that everything that you're going to get or every habit that you're going to develop is something that you want. There are people that want to drink, but if they want to get rid of drinking, it's not because they really want to get rid of it, but to some extent you feel you need to do something. You need to do something about what you cut. Now I'll assume you have a cycle of friends where you are challenged to read, where you are challenged to grow, where you are challenged to consume the right kind of information. That means you're going to look out for reading, even when you don't feel you need. You develop this culture, and you can only develop it when you just put out yourself, carry on with the little will you have in you, and develop a habit. It takes only 21 days. Do it consistently for 21 days. It's going to become part of you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Priska. But now let's say those ones who are in the village who really also do not have any access to social media, who are really poor, they don't even have maybe phones, not even laptops or anything, but they're really deeply rooted in the villages. Sorry. What can we really do, like, to help them out?
You guys getting me?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, I think in whichever part of the world that you are in, I don't think at any one point you are going to be in a place where you cannot, even history. I remember when my dad passed on, I went to stay with my grandma, very deep in a village. It's in Gomba. That's central Uganda, but somewhere in a village. I remember when we went there, my grandma had books and books. Like she had books in her, like they were really old. But to me, first of all, the culture of reading is not something that maybe I carried on from any one of my family members or anyone that was around me in my growing. It's just something that I don't know. I just think as a person, I needed something that I would fit in with. And it wasn't anything. I wasn't a play child that I would play every other time with kids. I was a very sad child. So reading was something that I really wanted to consume. There was always something to, like, there is definitely a book that you would get even from a village. But let's assume that you don't have that chance to maybe access either social media to get books. And I also don't think reading online is really, really healthy. I feel like I want to smell books. Like I want to have books with me usually. That's why I always like look out to buy books. But I know that people that cannot get, they don't have that privilege. Now, to me, I think as Africans now, those ones that are jumping out of the box of we are not readers, those are the things we need to look out for. And as a person, I'm very, very glad to be part of a book reading club that are, as Readers Africa, we're also looking out for such things. We are working on maybe coming up with a library, like a physical library where people can access books and all that. But also as me, I'm working on only that me, I am really limited to only children. I'm looking at children who are developing the reading culture in them, but also I'm limited to northern Uganda, especially in the less privileged communities. Now, for them, they are empty tins. What you put in is what they consume and they grow up with. So like starting up an initiative where we can encourage reading through giving out materials. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Priska. Yeah, personally, me as an individual, I'm a literacy activist, reading activist, and I really take my pleasure in trying to nurture reading skills in people. Yeah, I'm proud really to belong to the Rangers Book Clubs and also to be team leader of the Readers Africa, because at least in that way I can always interact with people and also like try my level best to not only give them the books to read, but also like to give them like, you know, to nurture that. Okay, because there's a famous saying that there's a famous quote that there's a famous quote that if we teach a child to read but fail to develop the desire to read, we will have created what a skilled non-reader, illiterate, and no test score can ever undo that damage. So as Readers Africa, we actually nurture reading skills through school outreaches, the book clubs, the book reviews, and all that. And if we could maybe have the Africans who have that same mindset to do the same, then the whole of Africa would actually have changed. So I'm going to go straight to Mr. Tahinduka. Mr. Tahinduka Joseph, the managing director of Readers Africa. Yeah, and also doubles as the managing director of Debate Institute Africa. So, Mr. Joseph Tahinduka, for any person who maybe is clueless about the African Readers Conference, what would you really have to tell us about it? Like your audience, the target audience, I mean? Sorry, the target audience and like the perception about the theme, changing reading narratives in African communities, because someone would wonder, what are we changing it from what to what? Yeah, thank you.
Agatha, I think you need to make him a speaker. He's not a speaker.
Mr. Tahinduka is a speaker. Mr. Joseph Tahinduka. So maybe as wait for him, let me go back to Mr. Garang. Yeah, Mr. Garang, I believe that much as you are an avid reader, you love reading books, there is maybe a time that you have ever gone through the reader's block. Yeah, for maybe someone who doesn't really know what the reader's block is, what is it and how can someone really overcome the reader's block? Thank you.
I beg your pardon, Agatha.
Yeah, the reader's block. Like, what is it for someone, some lay person who maybe doesn't know what it is all about, and really how can someone overcome the reader's block? Yeah, thank you.
Well, I don't know what you mean by overcoming the reader's block. You might want to expound on that before I maybe shoot my answer.
Yeah, because there are certain times when you really feel like you want to read something, you're really an avid reader, you love reading, but then you find like you don't just have the appetite for reading maybe even if you read something, you don't just try to understand it. That is what I'm trying to mean. Yeah, how can you overcome such situations whereby reading is just, okay, you just don't get pleasure in reading, but you're actually an avid reader? Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you very much. So you see, I think Priska alluded to that, and I also did when I spoke for the very first time today. Um, Sometimes if you are an avid reader already, that means you know how to read, and then you know why you should read. But sometimes you don't find you don't find the interest, you don't find the pull towards reading or the push towards reading. Sometimes it is because of it's because of your maybe your schedule, one. Then secondly, your surrounding. Like I said, if you're in a cycle of people who don't read, you will look odd if you are the one reading, and you will lose the interest. And then also your life, because reading is a habit, and in most cases habits are highly tied up to the way we live our lives. So if your life has a lot of things that are not moving well, if you are stressed, you're not going to find a free time out of your stress so that you can read. And then also, if you have any challenges, if you have something else that is not really well, it will be hard for you to prioritize reading over whatever it is. For example, if you don't have money, or your parent is sick, or you yourself you are sick, maybe a sibling is not fine, it will be hard for you to then go and read. That means the idea is not that you're not a reader, but it's because something has already taken over your attention. Because reading is premised on attention. You can't read a book like you're reading maybe a newspaper, or something you just pick from trash cans or something. You're reading a book because you want to learn something from it. So in most cases, some people would prefer not to read something that they would not understand, simply because they are not mentally prepared to read, and then they end up being blocked from reading. So ideally, I would tell someone that if you find that you don't get the urge to read, or you don't get the push towards reading, or you're not pulled towards reading, you might want to do a sort of a self audit. Look at your private life, look at whatever is going on in your life, look at your relationships, look at your finances, look at your education. If you're studying, look at your family. What is it that is not fine, that keeps you from doing your things that you do? Of course, reading sometimes people call it a hobby, but I don't want to call it that, because hobbies are optional. Me, I feel like everybody should be a reader. It's a life skill. It's like eating or doing exercise or seeing a doctor. So ideally, you wouldn't think that is a hobby. So if something stops you from doing something so necessary as reading, then it means that it's so big. So you want to do an audit and fix it. If you fix that, then you will have the attention towards your reading, and then you will be able to proceed to read. Because to be honest, if there's something that is not right with me, for example, if I'm not sure whether I have finished my coursework, it will be hard for me to pick up a novel or a book that I'm reading when I'm sure my coursework is not yet finished, or it's supposed to be handed in. So ideally, the point is there must be something that you haven't done that keeps you from reading, even when you want to read. If you found that out and fixed it, you would really read. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So, like, how really can we incorporate reading and writing? Because literacy is basically reading and writing. But then, if you're to see critically, realize that the writing industry is actually faring more than the reading industry. And yet, you cannot really be a good reader. Sorry, you cannot be a good writer without really being a reader. But really, also, we have people who write. I think I have a couple of friends. Priska should be knowing some. They write, but then they are really not so good at reading. Yeah. And they actually don't even love reading. So really, how can we incorporate reading and writing, like to make them all go hand in hand, like to really make reading not really lag so much behind? Yeah.
Yes. Thank you once again. Yeah. Okay. So I think this is a very, very important question, because it's something that I've also seen at a personal level. And then you see, some people find pleasure in being more opinionated than being informed. I know that is going to hurt very many, but that is the truth. People find that it is better to be more opinionated than to be informed. That you are always quick to share your opinion about whatever is happening, and should someone point you out that maybe you might not be actually factual or correct, you are always quick to say, oh, that's my opinion. Okay, you have yours. Okay, that's mine, or something like that. So such people will never read because they find pleasure in sharing their opinions than sharing their information that they read from somewhere. And I think that is problematic, not necessarily because people should not have opinions, but somehow I feel that it is good to strike a balance between opinion and information. That whatever you want to write, and now this is where writing comes in. In most cases, most of those who only write but don't read are simply sharing their opinions. They are just sharing what they think about something. And most cases that they think about something can either be wrong or right. And but that is different from an information, because if you read a book, let's say you read a science book, then you're reading facts approved and written by some science astute person. If you're reading an economics book, a political book, if you're reading a fiction novel, then someone sat down and thought and wrote that, own the copyright to that. So that is not it's an opinion that is authoritative, that you can refer to even when people know that that is a fiction. If it is a book, then you will know that this is something that is factual. Someone sat down, because I love telling people that no publisher will just publish trash. So by the time a book has gone beyond the stage of publication, it means whatever is in there is authoritative and can be quoted, and then you can refer to it as either fiction or a fact. But it has passed the test of scrutiny by publishers, and then it has gone there. So in most cases, people prefer to opinionate than inform, and that is very bad. Not like special need bad, but I think it's something we need to check, because we need to draw that line. So now, how do we help such people? That is the question. Sorry, I engaged a lot in something else, but this is the answer. You see, it is always good to call them out. Me, I don't hesitate. Like I said in the beginning, I don't want to be, I don't fear being politically incorrect. If you share more of opinions than facts, I'll point you out and tell you, this is your opinion and it is wrong. And I'm always ready to give you the facts because I read the books. So one thing we do is we call them out. When we call them out, they will know that their opinions are their opinion, which they have the right to, but then they should not keep imposing them on people. Because if you tell someone who doesn't have an opinion, your opinion, they will take your opinion. And if your opinion is wrong, you too become wrong. And we think it is better for people to be equipped with information, facts, than opinions, and then they will be wrong. So if we call them out, one, they will be forced to go and look for facts, and then slowly they will indulge in the art of reading. And as time moves on, it is a gradual process. They will read as they opinionate, they will be reading until they can be able to strike a balance between their opinions and the facts as they share them. So yes, reading and writing with time then come together. Before I started writing, these days I write just my opinions. But before I started writing, I was reading. And then I got drawn to writing by reading, because I started thinking, okay, if these people wrote things, some of them they thought, and some of them they put out so that they are criticized and people look into them, then I can do the same thing. So it's better for someone who started with reading, then they come to writing. But if someone started with writing before they read, it is hard. But in most cases, the more we call them out, the more we fix such people. So the first thing I would like to stress is call them out. Call them out, they will start reading. When they start reading, then slowly they will strike the balance. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'm going to call some out today. Yeah. So Priska, I'm going to throw Joseph's questions to you. Yeah, as one of the organizing committee of African Readers Conference.
Maybe Rachel, before you proceed.
Okay.
On the Joseph issue, if Joseph finds it hard to become a speaker, you can make him a co-host. When he becomes a co-host, he will have speaking rights, and that will be better than just sending him request to speak. Yeah.
Agatha, I'm sure I don't know how to make someone a co-host.
But I think one problem with Joseph is that maybe he just put his phone on and then he just went off. Yeah. He has that habit, I think.
Actually, he's quoting.
He's
He's
listening
listening because he's quoting.
Mr. Joseph? So, well, let me just go to the next question. I hope it's going to, I doubt whether it's really on. I doubt. Yeah, so Priska, my question to you is, I know, yeah, you are really a debater, and really with debate you have to be someone who does a lot of research, I know, and of course with this research it's all about reading. So how can we really, okay, how can we incorporate also the two, just like Garang said, like to really improve on the reading skills in Africa? Because realize that if you look at, if you juxtapose reading industry and then also like the debate society, realize that debate is actually fast more growing more than the reading industry, and yet you cannot be a good debater and when you're not a good reader. So how can we really do to make them like go hand in hand? I don't know whether Joseph is really on back.
Agatha, we have Joseph.
Yes, he's on, but
What
he's on, but I don't know what's up with him.
maybe it's network, probably.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
I'll go on to the mute because my voice.
Okay.
listen to a podcast. Now that is why we are, even when there are options of audiobooks, even when there are options of online books, even when there are options of book reviews, even when there are options of podcasts, still we don't have people coming up. The culture is not building up because we have a problem of both listening and reading. Now that is a problem. At least with the authors I know who are not good readers, they are good listeners. They listen so much to people. They listen so much to podcasts, and they read book reviews even when they're not so good at reading big volumes of books. Now that is where the problem comes in, and I think those authors that have been able to accomplish in that field because they are good listeners. That's another element. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Priska. Yeah, we really have very not only reading skills but very poor listening skills. I remember I tried, okay, because I always do write book reviews. Then something to deceive me to try doing audio book reviews. Man, only 2 people listen to it. Luckily, in a place of, I don't know, 100 people, it's only 2 people who turn up to listen to the audio. I was like, now let me just give up on podcast issues and maybe concentrate on writing. Yeah. So my very last questions, then maybe I'll give the opportunity to the audience. Yeah, because I believe that much as the listeners, they also have very burning questions that maybe they want to ask us tonight. Yes, so where do you really see the reading industry in the next 10 years? Priska and Garang. Yeah, I'll start right away with Garang. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Rachel. I think the future of reading is bright. Not just because I'm optimistic, but I think there is enormous evidence to the fact that reading is bound to grow in Africa or otherwise. Because Africa is growing at a time when there is a lot of things that favors growth. By favoring growth, including the growth of the reading culture, I mean there are things that simplify reading. I think a couple of years ago, the option of reading, of listening to audiobooks was almost not yet in Africa, if it was anywhere in the world anyway. So that alone simplifies reading. That even if you don't have the time to really be glued into your book for like 2 hours or 3 or how long you want to take, you could simply just turn on your device and then listening to that audiobook, maybe as you drive or as you walk or as you just take an evening walk or whatever walk you're taking. So these things mean simply point to a direction where reading and access to that book information is bright. And then secondly, accessibility of reading materials is growing. I mean, I jokingly normally tell people, not because it is not true, but because of the fact that my laptop and my phone are the biggest libraries that I have. Because if I am to go to a bookstore to buy a book, that is when I have failed to get it online. So in most cases, I would explore online and just download the books and then keep them and read them as I have planned to read them. So the access to books is also really it's growing, and it's actually grown, and then it's also meant to keep growing. And then also lastly, I think as young Africans, there is a lot that is challenging us to read. There is a lot of whatever that's happening in our surrounding. It keeps challenging us to read, because in most cases, people you would find that you've gone to school, but as you go to your job place, as you go to work, there are things that you have to keep reading again, because what you learned may not be actually what is happening in the workplace. So you will have to keep reading. So because of those 3 reasons, in the next about 10 years, I think reading, if we are to be statistically speaking, would have increased by about 30%, if not 40 even, because there is access to books, there is simplicity of the reading in it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Yes,
hear
I
you.
can hear you. I was just
We get a minute
get a
of
minute
reconnecting people to
seeing
come
people
back.
come back.
Yeah. We have again lost Garang. Let me see. Yeah, I'm seeing Pinky is back. Rashida is also back. Yeah. Let's wait for Garang, then Tahinduka. I think we are good to go. I left when Garang was speaking. Yeah, maybe we could start with him. Hey, Garang, I think we're on your how you envision the reading industry for the next 10 years. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yes,
Yes,
I was
I was
telling you
telling you
that the reading culture is bound to grow because it's happening at a time when there is a lot of things that favor access to reading. And I told you that access to books at now and in the near future is bound to keep increasing because I actually was using myself right now. I have a huge library in my laptop and in my phone. So wherever I am, and I just feel I need a page in my book, whatever book I'm reading, by that time I can always access it. So I don't have to move around with hard copy books and stuff like that. That alone favors the future of reading culture in Africa. Secondly, the growth in technology has also serves to also favor the growth in reading because the very presence of audiobooks is in itself a leverage for people that may not really have time to open pages and read, that they can access books even on transit, that as you drive you're listening to an audiobook, that as you take your walk in the evening or in the morning you're listening to an audiobook. And then thirdly also, I was telling people that as Africans, as young Africans, we are happening at a time when there is a lot of things that force us to read, because we are now being challenged. We are now able to see that Europe is more developed than Africa, maybe America or Asia is more developed than Africa. We can see it on TV, we can see it in magazines, we can see it in the movies that come from there. And then we are challenged to find that unique thing that will keep us developed as they. So there is enough evidence that will force Africans to start reading. That by the time you see someone, by the time you graduate and then you go to the job market, you are challenged to keep knowing something that you thought you knew at school, but maybe because somehow whatever you study at school or whatever we study at school is not what happens in the workplace. So again, you pick up books again and you keep reading. So that means there is a lot of things that keep challenging us to keep reading. So because of these three things, reading, and I was projecting statistically that in the next about 10 to 15 years, reading culture will have grown by about 40%. And if there were, let's say, 2 million young Africans reading now, by that time there will be maybe 6 or 7 million young Africans. So that for me, it's something that I can say without just because I am optimistic or something, but factually it's going to happen. Yeah. And conversations like these are happening. I mean, 5 to 10 years ago, no one was talking about reading, but now we are talking, and tomorrow other people will start talking. So from this very premise, the reading culture is just having a bright future. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And really, in my own view, from 10 years ago, yeah, in 10 years, sorry, 10 years from now, because as Readers Africa, yeah, we are trying to launch book reading clubs, like at least 100 per year. So in the next 30 years, we shall be having around 1 million book clubs if all goes well. So if maybe we could have such things like, having book clubs, having people like you guys, having such spaces really, then the reading culture itself would really change greatly. Yeah. So maybe let me give the mic to Priska. Then I'll request, I'll request Pink here.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Again, Agatha, please.
I will.
Okay, thank you very much again for giving me the opportunity to maybe close. This could be my last question. So, the mere fact that we are having this conversation today, we had about 17, was it 17 people in this space today. I am imagining we have maybe a response of about, even if 100 people to join in for the readers conference, the kind of information they are going to consume, testimonies they're going to listen in, will push them to do something. Every time, I don't think I am now bound to step behind in my reading journey, or I'm bound not to maybe preach the gospel to other people, maybe to talk to other young people about what kind of life could they have if they had reading as one of the fundamental elements in their life. That is something that if we didn't have now, the story would be different in the next 10 years. But if we are having it right now, if you're having conversations, if young people are having such conversations, that is something that I think in the next 10 years is going to be different. The response could be low now, but the response of these few people will get higher with time. And I think that is very, very beautiful, because now it calls for, if someone knew me 2 years ago and they know me now, they get to see me now, they're definitely going to see another person that I am right now. And they will ask questions of, why is she like this? What has changed? What has she done? Those are things that will push them. And especially if you want to grow as a person, people around you that are growing, they'll always push you to ask questions about yourself. And that makes us to dive into such answers. I mean, to get to quench for those answers. And those answers will be, she's reading. What is reading to her? How is it helping her to step into another world? And those are the things that we look at. Those are the questions we are seeing young people behind us are going to ask themselves, and they will definitely get the answers by saying, hey, she has been reading. I mean, she's been a reader. She's been able to consume this kind of energy she gives out, maybe from the lifestyles that she's been living. That will give them the anger to look out for that. And that is one thing that I think is putting the reading culture of Africa on another level in the next 5, 7, 10 years. That is so beautiful. I love the fact that young people are doing this, even when we are not so many. The few that are right now, the story is going to be different in the next 10 years. Plus also, I wanted to say something. I think I've forgotten. But yes, what I can say about what I see. If we could put out the information, if we could spread the information to more to people who are quite younger than us, the ages of 10, 9, 5, 6, those are empty tins. They consume anything that we put into them. And that simply means that when they consume this kind of information, they put it in, they practice, that is going to challenge them to grow. Thank you.
Yes, put it in practice. Yeah. Now, for maybe those ones who have just joined us, maybe they're really not aware of what this space is all about. It is a pre-ARC event. Pre-African Readers Conference, because on the 8th of December, that is going to be next Wednesday, we're going to be hosting the African Readers Conference, the very first of its kind in the African soil, with the main aim of changing reading narratives in African communities. Yeah, so if you have not registered for the conference, you'd really wish to be part of the conference, please kindly get to my inbox. I'm going to send the link to you guys, and maybe you can register and then you join us later. Yeah. So someone requested for a mic. Mohammed Katerega.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for muting. Thank you so much. Good evening, hopefully, for everyone here. Hopefully, we're in the same time zone. Apologies, I came in a bit late. I knew about this space way before, I think a few days back, and I retweeted about it even today. But unfortunately, I was hosting another space. It was also about Pan-Africanism and basically how we can develop ourselves as Africans. And this is very, very important, because I've seen some of my comrades from there joining here. I can see Kanza Jackson. He's he's more active on Clubhouse, which is another app like Twitter. And he also has similar spaces. I can see Henry joining in, and other youths from all over Africa. They're all leaders. So it's very good that you're here. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, guys. And maybe what you could do is share the link. Yes, you can DM me the link. I will definitely share it aggressively with everyone. I want every single youth to actually be part of this, because the reading culture is key. You know, our self-education is more important than any other form of education we can have. There's so much limitation in the traditional educational system we inherited from the previous colonial system. And the ability to teach ourselves through reading books and teaching ourselves through each other takes us way beyond what we could ever achieve in the traditional educational system. So please definitely share the link with me. I will share it everywhere. And it's been a pleasure being part. So apologies for coming in a little bit late. And yeah, back to you, host. And thank you for hosting this space. And I'm glad to be part of this. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Katerega. We really need people like you. Imagine if you had around 1 million Africans who were really like us, like hosting such spaces, like doing such initiatives, then Africa wouldn't really be the same. And to our people, our new listeners, the newcomers, please kindly register. I've sent the link to Mohammed's inbox. It is readersafrica.org. Readersafrica.org. Yeah, you can just tap that link and then you register. Then it will also lead you to the main WhatsApp group. Remember, it's going to be on the 8th of August, next Wednesday, from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Thank you. So if you have any question, please kindly request for the mic.
September.
Oh, yeah. 8th September, sorry. Yeah, any other person who has anything to add? Anyone in the audience who has anything to add? Yeah, it seems like we don't have anything to add. So let me just get back to our speakers. Your last words, very, very last words to us as we wind up today. Yeah, let me start with Priska. Priska, your last words to us.
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. I was still trying to check on the activities. People are trying to really spread the message. So first, lastly, thank you so very much. Some of you didn't even know about this, but you just tapped randomly and you joined. And I'm very glad you're keeping around. Let's spread the message. Reading is very fundamental in our lives. We can only and only change. We can only and only move. We can only and only get to know history about our cultures, about Africa, we can only grow our personal growth. We can only and only spread the right kind of information through reading. I've never, if you want to get stories of reading, you can go out and Google. I think the top influential people in the world are readers. what is that element? What is that they get from reading? I think these are the questions we need to ask ourselves. And as Africa, it's never the thing that we are not, like, reading is not really in our veins. It's there. It's definitely there. And if you want to develop the culture, like I said earlier, 21 days, do it consistently. You don't have to be hard on yourself. Even if you read 1 page, even if you read 2 pages or 3 pages consistently for 21 days, you want to, you see the same up and morning, jumping out of your, going out, and simply you're coming out as the same person you were yesterday. So let's read, please. Let's read. Let's spread this message. Please join us on the 8th of this month. We have a couple of activities. You're definitely going to change your life. You won't remain the same. You're going to consume from the very, very best people who have accomplished in writing and reading. Yes, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to hosting you on the 8th of this month. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Priska. Thank you really so much to everyone who has joined here. My name is Akulu Agatha Rachel. Yeah, and I'm really so excited for this particular space, really eagerly waiting for the African Leaders Conference. Now, maybe to just add on what Priska said, yeah, we're going to be having a lot of activities. Maybe let me just give a spoiler. The Authors Roundtable, we are going to be having Reading Innovations Roundtables. And of course, we are going to also be having poetry performances, and a lot of things. The Q&As, all just centered around reading, and of course basing on our theme, that is changing reading narratives in African communities. So today was just a pre-event, so that before that big day really comes, we already have a ground level for the big event itself. Yeah, I'm seeing Mr. Garang is back. Yes, let me toss the mic back to him. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Sorry, Tim. I just got network interruption, but I'm back. Yes, my last word. I think I'll speak like Priska. I'm a very optimistic person, and I believe that the reading culture, like I said, is bound to grow. So in the near future, there are going to be more people that are reading than we are today. And of course, like I said, 10 years ago, no one was talking about reading, but we are here. So it might not take another 10 years before more people start talking about reading. So it might just take 2 or 3 because the foundation is already happening in this space, right? So now, in as far as reading is concerned, I don't think we can just verbally stress the importance of reading enough. We cannot find the heaviest word to show, to use, so that people can see how important reading is. So I think what I would just want people to take home from today is go to work. Like, just go to work. It doesn't have to be a Readers Africa thing. It doesn't have to be the African Readers Conference thing. It doesn't have to be a Twitter space thing. I think it should start being a personal thing. Just like you do mentorship of your younger siblings, of your younger friends, or you are mentored by your senior friends or senior siblings. I think reading should start from there. This is also a live example. The other day, I think I got a book for my kid cousin. She's in P6. So I got some lousy book for her, and I told her, read this book and tell me what's in that book. So I gave her the book. She went through the book, and then when she came back with the book, the first thing she told me, it's a boring book. I said, no, you've not read the book if you say it's a boring book. Because the first thing that comes to minds of people who don't read is, it's a boring book. So before you even know how to read before you even read the book, you're already saying it's a boring book. So if you need to know someone is not reading, they will tell you the book is boring. Not because it's boring, but because they don't want to read it. So I told her, no, I give you another week. You've read the book, or read the book. So she went and read the book and came back with the book, and I was able to see that she read the book. And then I gave her a second book, and then I have read now 5 books, and she has not read that. She has not finished that book, and I'm not happy with that. So the reason for this story is simple. Begin with the people you live with. Begin with your junior colleagues. Begin with your senior colleagues. Give someone a book like a joke. Challenge them. Give them a book and tell them, okay, let's read this book, and then we're going to discuss it after a week or 2. When you do that, you're not forcing them to read. but then you're influencing them to read. So let's not leave it to read as Africa or Rachel or Priska or Lester or Muhammad or whoever is in this space or any other reader. Let's take it as a personal thing, and then we'll start implementing things that's making people read, and then they will start reading. Secondly, like Pritzker said, you don't have to spend 2 hours in a book. 15 minutes are enough. By 15 minutes, you will have read like 5 pages. If a book is of like, let's say 200 pages and you read 5 pages a day and you do simple math, you will finish that book before a month ends. And a book a month is better than none. So do it slowly. Begin with anything. Don't begin with digital books, apart from maybe audio books. Like Priska said, books are sweet when you are opening the pages. They're really nice. They're sexy for those who prefer to use the word sexy. So when you open the pages, you will keep liking the idea. You'll keep smelling and everything, the good scent, and the books, the good book, and then you will stop. You'll get addicted. Right now, I can't see a new book and I don't want. Sometimes I'm limited by my finances. But when I see a new book, I just want to read it. So ideally, when you get addicted to books, you'll be glad you did. Then lastly and thirdly, for those who aspire to be intellectual, there is no intellectual that doesn't know. Me, I pride in being an intellectual. I don't know how much of an intellectual I am. Maybe people know me like Tahinduka Joseph and Priska can attest. But I love minds. I love smart people. There is no way you can be smart if you don't know, and there is no way you can know if you don't read. So if you aspire to sit on what I normally call the table of intellectuals, please start reading, get informed, and then you'll get there. So basically, those will be my last words, and go to work. I will repeat this for emphasis. Start with your junior colleagues, get them a simple book, let them read it. Challenge your senior colleagues. Say, sir, you see today, I think as you go for this weekend, I have an interesting book that I found out the other day. Why don't you have a copy and then you come back and tell me what you get from it? Even if they are your boss, if you give your boss a book and then they like the book, they will like you too. So basically, let's go to work and we will make this happen. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Garang. Now, I think really what you said is right. Like starting with the personal thing, like make it really be something that is personal. I remember around January, yes, because I have two nieces here. So I try to force them to read because they're so much into watching and all that. So I said, how about if we just sit maybe in a day, then we start reading together, we narrate for each other their stories and all that. They didn't like me, they hated me because like to them I was trying to violate the rights of watching the SpongeBob, I don't know the what and all that. Yeah. So I tried to, lure them into reading time and again. So to the point that I would actually read my books and maybe be laughing maybe at some jokes in the books and all that. Then they would be like, hey, please kindly narrate for me this. What are you trying to read and all that? So it even reached a point whereby they became even more of readers that they'll be like, Agatha, when are we going to have our next book discussion and all that? You get it? So that is really what we really need to do. And because when I was growing up as a child, Priska said for us, she was not really much of a play child. Me, I was someone very, very playful, very destructive. And I think they needed a way to tune me because I loved eating, I loved playing. I was just distracted. So my aunt used to give me books. She said that when you read this book and you finish, I'm going to buy for you gifts. And because I loved eating, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to read this book. Then what I would narrate it maybe for you. The only proof that maybe I would give to her was by narrating to her whatever I'd read. So she kept on pushing me to read the books and maybe narrate them for her. So with time, I developed that habit of reading, you get it, to the point that it became an addiction, not just for me to get the gifts, but rather something that became just a habit in me. And really imagine if all of us, maybe we have the nieces, we have the nephews, and then we just start incorporating that thing, and then we start nurturing that reading skills in them when they're just really young. Then by the time they grow up, they'll really be and very, I can say, people who really are not just readers, but also like literal activists. Yeah. So my last words to every other person is, please, let's own our own stories as Africans. Yeah. I know they say that if you want to hide something from an African man, then put it in a book, but we all know that is really not right. How about if we just start changing the narratives, we just change that perception about Africa as a whole? And I know it is not something that is going to be just like me, it is not going to be just Garang, it is not just going to be Priska or Readers Africa, it just starts with us, just as Garang said. So let's start owning our stories, and can can connect African nations. Yes. So let's just keep up the spirit, do this jointly, because when we are really united, of course, our burdens will become lighter and we shall become mightier. Thank you so much all for joining these spaces. Thank you all for turning up in large numbers. Kindly share the link for the registration. See you guys on the 8th of September. And if you have anything else to add, please, yeah, you can still request for the mic.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for meeting. One issue I've had is I've had some complaints from people concerning the link. The website readersafrica.org is not. They're not able to see anything or register.
Oh, I think it's a technical issue. Just let me send the WhatsApp group link. I'll share it to you. Yeah.
Okay.
I have something.
Priska.
Mine is please bless me with a book, a hard copy.
Hey, by the way, do you know what? One thing about me is that I buy books every month. At least every month I must buy a book. I'd rather not buy makeup or what, or clothes or what. I buy books every month, and so far I already have 10 books. I have 2 more books to go to make it be 12 for this year. Yeah. So if you want a book anyway, you know where I stay. You can come and still get from my library. Yeah.
I want my own. I don't want only.
You want to own my books?
Right.
And also, maybe Agatha, I find it odd that you are moderating a reading forum and then you forget to tell people about your book. I mean, you wrote your book by yourself. Don't you think we would like to read that book?
Thank you, Garang. Yeah, I actually always forget. I think I'm more of a reader than a writer. Though I started, I wrote my book in 2014. I was in senior 2, I think. Yeah, but I was really so much of a reader, really much of a reader. Like borrowing books was compulsory in our school. Yeah, so on Wednesdays it was a must that we had to borrow, whether you wanted or you didn't want. So I would actually force my friends who didn't like to read to go and borrow on my behalf. Then I would actually be reading. So my friend said, Agatha, you're really so much of a reader. How about if you just start writing a book? And I was like, you people, you think you just wake up from nowhere, then you start writing. But I don't know really what came out of me from nowhere. I found myself writing 2 books that same year. The very first one I've already published, it is Arrow of Destiny. Yeah, it goes for 20K to anyone who might want, like Garang, Priska. Yeah, I can deliver it within Kampala, within Uganda, any place. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.